What's up, guys? Welcome back to RacingNews.com. Welcome back to another Kentucky Derby update. We got a couple things to talk about today for sure. We'll get to them, but first, like we always do to kick off these shows, we'll start with a shake in our fantasy league and kind of talk about that horse and who won the shake, who's dropping, and all that kind of stuff. So we have two claims to announce today. One will be a two-way shake for Red Route 1. That's a horse that's going to run in the Rebel. We'll talk about him a little bit, obviously, as well. So we'll do a two-way shake for Red Route 1. And I'll also announce that Angel of Empire, winner of the Risen Star last weekend, has been claimed in the league by John and Ryan. So Angel of Empire going to the John and Ryan team. No shakes for the Risen Star winner. Just one claim came from them. They will drop Classic Catch. So Angel of Empire, nice win last week in the Risen Star. Buyer came back a little low, though. 87 buyer. Kind of leaves a little bit to be desired. Don't know exactly how those horses ran, what they beat, but in the Kentucky Derby gate with that win. So that is the good news. All right, let's get to it. Shoddy says, let's win the shake. Here we go. And then we'll talk about the Rebel and get you out of here. So two-way shake for Red Route 1 here. It's going to be Shoddy and Davey. They're going to be team number 1. And team number 2 will be Evil Stevel and Kelby. So we'll see what happens here. Two-way shake for this Rebel runner this weekend, Red Route 1. I'm just going to hit this generate button to show you that it does pull up 1s and 2s. Geez, a lot of 1s. There's a 2. So just to show you that. So that is the generator. So Shoddy, Davey, you guys will be number 1. And then we will have Steve and Kelby number 2 on this. All right. I'm going to hit it one more time, and then this is the official one. All right, here we go. The official one. Number 1, Shoddy Davey. Number 2, Kelby and Steve. And a 1. So Shoddy and Davey, you guys have won the claim. You guys will get Red Route 1, and you will drop Shebway. Shebway's still a maiden. Actually running this weekend, or this week, I should say, at Gulfstream Park, but you'll drop him and you will go with Red Route 1. And you can see very, very happy are the fans here, Shoddy and Davey, for getting Red Route 1. So let's talk about the Rebel real quick. I will pull up the field now. Hopefully I can do this. Let's see if I can do this without messing everything up. Just me today, so I'm winging it. There it is. There's the Rebel field. Let's blow it up here where you can actually see it. So the Rebel field has drawn 11 horses here. And why the fans are so happy, Red Route 1 in the race. He's coming off a second place finish in the Southwest last time out. And yeah, like the fans say, they've got 3 horses in the Rebel. They'll have verifying Red Route 1. Who is your other one in here? I'm drawing a blank. Oh, and Gun Pilot. Sorry, verifying Red Route 1 and Gun Pilot, and that's 3 horses that could be a big time player in this race. Field of 11. I'll run down verifying powerful Red Route 1, Gun Pilot, Giant Mischief, Reincarnate, Confidence Game, Talladega, Event Detail, Bourbon Bash, and Frosted Departure. One thing that stands out, and you're going to start seeing it more, last weekend we saw Harlow Cap go to Steve Asmussen out of the Bob Baffert barn. This week, Reincarnate has been entered in the Rebel, but not with Bob Baffert. He has been transferred over to the Tim Yakteen barn. That's big news because it seems now as Tim Yakteen is going to get the vast majority of the horses. He's also nominated 3 horses to the Gotham Stakes next weekend. All those horses under Tim Yakteen as well. Carmel Road being one of them, Arabian Lion, and Hijazi. So 3 other horses now with Tim Yakteen. It seems like that's what we're going to do once again this year. The Baffert horses going over to Yakteen. We'll have nominations for the San Felipe coming out on Thursday. We'll get a much clearer picture, as I'm sure a lot of them will be nominated for the San Felipe, and we'll see if Tim Yakteen does indeed have all of those as well. So that is big news here. As far as the major players, Reincarnate certainly one to take a look at. As Jeremiah says, he thinks he's going to finish second or third. Jeremiah, I kind of have that same feeling. I did not pick Reincarnate to win this race. I do feel like he's going to tough it out. He's going to be there. I just don't know if he's going to get all the way up and get the job done. I've got him in second, third, fourth kind of spots too. Haven't quite finalized it yet. And to be completely honest, I'm between the two Brad Cox horses, and I still haven't finalized who I'm going to put on top, Giant Mischief or Verifying. And you look at his horses here, Verifying coming out of that strong allowance race at Oaklawn Park, where the second place finisher Gun Pilot came back to dominate another allowance race, so much so that here he is in the Rebel, number 4 Gun Pilot. And then 2 Eagles River, the third place finisher of that Verifying race, also comes back and dominates an allowance at Oaklawn. So, and if you watch the Verifying allowance race, he absolutely dominated those horses. So that could be a very good sign. Also, Giant Mischief, I don't really think this is a 1.25 mile horse, but I think at 1 16th mile, he's still going to be dangerous. I see a ton of pace lining up in here. So I think Giant Mischief, I don't know if that he's like a serious Kentucky Derby prospect, but I think this race is going to fit him pretty well. I think it's very important to note that Irad Ortiz comes in and will get the mount on Giant Mischief. So he is definitely one to keep an eye on as well. Steve Asmussen's got 3 in here with Powerful, the before mentioned Red Route 1 and Gun Pilot. You certainly think that Gun Pilot is improving with each race, and he's going to be a big player in here. Ricardo Santana will ride Gun Pilot. I thought that was interesting that he has chosen Gun Pilot, at least by the looks of it. Red Route 1 will get Torres aboard. I think Red Route 1, we know what he is. He's going to make a run at the end. He's going to get up, get second, get third, get fourth maybe. He's kind of the looking at Lee of this year's crop so far. So we'll see how he runs here. Torres aboard is kind of it was surprising to me, to say the least. One other horse that I will mention before I move on to a couple of the questions we're getting coming in. What about Bourbon Bash? He's also been a horse that's been kind of around those horses I was talking about, whether it be a 2 Eagles River or a Gun Pilot. Let me just click on him. Actually, we'll pull him up. I thought at a huge number, he's not the weirdest horse to use here. He's been, he was third here in the Renaissance behind 2 Eagles River in that race. And, he's second in this allowance race right here. I don't know, but behind Gun Pilot, I just feel like maybe Bourbon Bash is kind of that he's improving and maybe kind of built him back up. Maybe he's like the 30-1 shot to hit the board. I would just kind of be leery of him. Maybe use him underneath in a super or something like that. He was one that kind of stuck out with me. I should mention Frosted Departure also. He was behind in that Renaissance Stakes, who's also in this race, but Frosted Departure, you're not going to get the price that you're going to get on Bourbon Bash. Just a thought. He might be interesting underneath. I don't think he's going to win. So we'll see what happens, but he's definitely improved since coming to Oaklawn. So I'll have a full preview out on the website of this and give my final pick here pretty soon this afternoon at some point. I'm kind of leaning Giant Mischief at this point, but we'll see. I like Verifying an awful lot as well. A couple of questions that came in before we go off the air today. Jeremiah asked, Arabian Night, is he going to the Santa Anita Derby or the Arkansas Derby? Not sure yet. Those are the 2 races that they're going to point for him. I would say what happens with the other Baffert/Yakteen horses will kind of determine where this one goes. I don't know. He ran really well in Arkansas. I would not be surprised to see him come back. Also would not be surprised if he stayed home to the Santa Anita Derby. So we'll kind of see what happens with him in this one. And then also, where is Arabian Night going? Which trainer? That's a question that we do not know the answer to as well. I wish I could answer that one. The assumption would be Tim Yakteen. That's where all of them have gone so far, minus Harlow Cap. And Harlow Cap, his owners kind of had a connection with Asmussen anyway, but 4 other horses have been to Yakteen. If that kind of thing continues to progress like that, it seems like Tim Yakteen will get Arabian Night. But I want to be very clear. We do not know the answer to that as of now. That is not official. That is me speculating on the information that I have. So we'll see what happens with Arabian Night. And unfortunately, we may not know until we get to the Arkansas Derby or Santa Anita Derby. It seems like when these horses are getting nominated, that's when we find out, they're with Yakteen instead of Baffert, or in the Risen Star case, Asmussen instead of Baffert. So we may not know for a while, Jeremiah. When we do know, I can guarantee you we'll be covering it and we'll be talking about it. Quick question here. How do you compare the field to the Risen Star? Talking about the Rebel. I'm hopeful that this is better than the Risen Star. But at first look, it's a similar group, I think. We had you hate to say it now, but Victory Formation was a horse that people were really high on. He didn't really show up. I think Reincarnate and is a horse that's kind of like Victory Formation. People are high on. Let's see if he can show up and do it again. Giant Mischief obviously has been really good, but you do have the distance concerns. I think the up and coming type of horse is a little bit stronger in this race. So I think I will rate the Rebel just a bit stronger, at least going into it, than the Risen Star. Hopefully we get a better, once it's over, we'll say, hey, the Rebel was a lot better. But, going into it, I think Verifying is a really interesting prospect. And I know Davey and Shadi would agree because they have him in the fantasy league. I thought he improved a lot in that last race. And I think if he can continue to take a step forward, we might see something nice out of him. And I think Gun Pilot really improved in his second start as a 3-year-old. Now he gets third start. So I think there's enough in here to think it's going to be a little bit better. An 87 buyer, and the buyers aren't the end all be all, but the 87 buyer in the Risen Star, obviously not going to turn a lot of heads. You get here and it's like, well, Verifying ran a 97 last time out, right? So it's like, we can do it. We've seen Gun Pilot run faster than that. We've seen Giant Mischief. We've seen Reincarnate. We've seen a lot of horses run faster than that. Now it's Stakes Company though. Everything's different. We'll see what happens, but I think it's going to be a little bit better. But as Shadi says, pretty biased, as the Rebel holds a very special place in my heart and also Jared's heart, the other racing dude owner here, because that's Oaklawn Park. That's our home track, and I will be there in attendance. So obviously very excited for the Rebel Stakes. Now the question comes in here, Hoosier Philly Derby hopes are gone, I would guess. Yes. So Hoosier Philly third in the Rachel Alexandra last weekend in just a brutally bad performance. There's no other way to put it. Now, she could have a lot of excuses. There's no question about it. You go here, there, everywhere. I just can judge what I saw on the racetrack. It was not good. Not good whatsoever. Trip wasn't good, but didn't do any running, period. And I wouldn't bet her in the Kentucky Oaks right now off of that performance. Now, she's going to run one more time. She might bounce out of it and be really good, and we'll have a totally different opinion of her. But we can only take it for what we saw last week in the Rachel Alexandra as of right now for her 3-year-old resume. Not good. Not good whatsoever. Dennis says he wouldn't say gone, but they are going to have to choose Oaks or Derby. Listen, the Derby is done for this Hoosier Philly. Forget about it. It's over. The Oaks, definitely in play. The Oaks, you can bounce back and be just fine. Derby, done. Where does Two Phils go next? I would imagine they're going to keep this horse at Fairgrounds. That'd be my guess. I've got him down for the Louisiana Derby. He's ran really well over that track, 2 straight starts. When you run the Risen Star, it's kind of one of the early 50-point races. So if you wanted, to kind of reroute, the Bluegrass might make a little bit of sense. We've seen horses, that last race, maybe they reroute. They don't go to Louisiana Derby and they'll go to a race like the Bluegrass, the Arkansas Derby. I think the Bluegrass is possible, but I think Louisiana Derby is where he will end up. Just guessing, though. I don't have any kind of thoughts on that. I have not, or I don't have any firm news on that. Shadi says maybe Wood Memorial, maybe Louisiana Derby. Yeah, I mean, Wood Memorial is another one. It makes sense. And like I was trying to say, when the Risen Star is that early, that last prep does open you up to a lot of different things. Larry Ravelli is not like a local, have 100 horses at Fairgrounds type of guy. So if he does kind of want to go somewhere different, you obviously could do that. Wood Memorial would make some sense. We'll see. Hit Show going to the Wood Memorial. We'll know that for sure. Arctic Arrogance is a horse. You got to think he's going to be at the Wood Memorial. And then we'll see from there. Hey, one more thing I should mention. I read an article yesterday, and I can't remember if it was DRF or the press release from Gulfstream. Not sure. Sorry for not knowing exactly. But the point is talking about where our horse is going to go. Tappet Trice, it was interesting. Todd Pletcher said he would love to keep Forte and Tappet Trice separate. So Forte certainly going to go to the Fountain of Youth. That would be next weekend at Gulfstream. And he kind of said the next logical race for Tappet Trice would be the Fountain of Youth. But I kind of want to separate them. And he mentioned the Tampa Bay Derby, which will be March 11th. That next weekend could be where Tappet Trice goes. I will say this, whether you love Tapit Trice or you think he's just kind of, maybe he's average or maybe a plotter. I've heard that, I don't really agree with that. I think he's pretty good. If he goes to Tampa, he's 1-9 to win the Tampa Bay Derby if the same horses show up that ran in the Sam F. Davis. So Tapit Trice, I think, is a slam dunk if he goes to Tampa. And if he stays at home for the Fountain of Youth, which doesn't seem likely now, it would be interesting to see him and Forte go at it. But as of right now, it sounds like Forte next weekend in the Fountain of Youth. All eyes will be on him for sure. And then Tampa Bay Derby perhaps for Tapit Trice. So just wanted to pass that along. I read that yesterday evening and thought, that's interesting, because we had heard Fountain of Youth for both of them, but it sounds like we're going to go different routes, which makes all the sense in the world. And then if you wanted to speculate on what's going to happen next with those two, I would think Forte will stay at the Florida Derby if he was to win the Fountain of Youth. And then Tapit Trice, you look at the Wood Memorial, you look at the Bluegrass, that's probably going to be where he would go next off the Tampa Bay Derby. So that's two very good horses for Todd Pletcher. Kind of can see the logical maps for these two horses to get to the Kentucky Derby, assuming everything goes well for both of them in their next starts. So I'm a little relieved that we're getting Forte back, because we kind of need that big horse right now. And I think we kind of thought last week we could see a big horse kind of emerge, and we didn't. Maybe we'll see it in the Rebel Stakes, and then March 4th, those big prep races going on as well. So maybe we'll get some horses that jump out at us. All right, guys. I think that's about all I could do for this week for the Kentucky Derby update. Kind of digging just being at me. I like it. I don't like passing the microphone around to everybody. So I'm liking that as well. Okay, one more, since Dennis had it here. If you had to pick a trainer, not a horse, that would have the bet to win the Derby, who would it be? So I had to pick a trainer to win the Derby. It's tough now because Baffert isn't going to be there. We know that officially. I really am digging a few of the Brad Cox horses, but I don't know if he has the one. I feel like he has like 5 that are going to make the gate. I don't know if he has the horse. So I guess I'll answer Todd Pletcher, because I'm really high on Tapit Trice, and Forte could just come back and be better. I'd go Pletcher, I'd go Tim Yakteen, and then I would go Brad Cox. That's how I would rank him right now, not knowing where Arabian Night's going to go. He may go somewhere completely different, and then that would change. But as of this moment, oddly enough, yes, I would go Pletcher, Tim Yakteen, Brad Cox at this point. But and I couldn't argue if you're going Cox. He's got a bunch of them. And maybe after Saturday, if Verifying blows him out, Giant Mischief, looks like he's just in a gallop at a mile 16th. It's like, wait a second, maybe he'll want a mile and a quarter. Then maybe Brad Cox will change. But I just feel like he reminds me of Pletcher a lot of years, where you got 5 or 6 of them, or 3 or 4, 5, 6 of them, and you look at the past performances when the Derby gets here, and you're like, he's got a bunch, but I don't think any of them are going to win. It's kind of what Cox reminds me of right now, but we're sitting here February 21st. It could change. Every weekend this thing changes. So we'll see what happens with that. So that's how I'd answer it right now, Dennis. I think it's a good question for sure. And with the no Baffert thing, it's really interesting to say, hey, I think Tim Yakteen is a really likely winner of the Kentucky Derby. That's just still, you're not going to get used to saying that one. So, all right, that's it. Thanks everybody for the questions. I really appreciate everybody coming on. And as Shotty says, I can't wait to meet Shotty as well on Saturday. And if you're going to be at Oaklawn Park, make sure to come up and say hi. I'll be there Friday and Saturday of this week. Really can't wait to be back at Oaklawn, our home track. It's going to be a lot of fun to be there. All right, guys, going to get off here for now. Thank you guys very much for all the questions and joining us. Probably be back here next week. I'm sure we will for another Kentucky Derby update. And we're, getting excited every single week. It gets a little bit better and better. So, all right, guys, thanks everybody for watching. See you right back here next week.
RacingDudes.com is your home for the best free picks for every race, every track across the country. We're ramping up for the 2023 Kentucky Derby, and we want you to join us in the fun. Subscribe to Racing Dudes YouTube channel, click the notification bell so you never miss a single video. Want to make money betting horses? Bet with the Racing Dudes.